So, state your name and who you work for,
I'm Ryan Briones. I'm a consultant with Optiva in Chicago.
and what were you talking on today? Because you did your talk, right?
Yes, I did my talk. The talk was titled Ruby for the Web. It's a concept of where a beginner to Ruby and web programming should start when coming to Ruby.
Okay.
And more specifically, that place shouldn't be Rails.
Really?
Rails is very simple. It's very easy to get something up and going, and that's what's great about it.
Okay.
It definitely changed the world, but it's not a beginner's world. The code is underneath is very complex. You can get 80% done very quickly. That 20% you tend to fight against Rails, and people that don't have the experience and understand the abstractions that Rails provides for you can get in a tough spot.
That's it. Would you even say that about Rails 3? Now, understand, I'm not a hater. I'm an ignorant person with Ruby. I admit that. But with Ruby, Ruby on Rails, they had the 3.0 version come out. Would you even say the same thing about 3.0?
Rails 3 is significantly less complex, has better public APIs for stuff like that, but still, Rails 3 is essentially a collection of abstractions written in the Rack framework now, most of that, along with its language extensions and stuff like that. So, in a sense, they've kind of moved towards that structure, but I still think it's important to understand what those abstractions are and how to kind of build them up yourself. Feel the pain.
Okay. When I was reading all the tweets for the event today, I noticed somebody said that I think it was your talk. Here comes the Java versus .NET religious war.
I'm not sure about that. I didn't.
No, I'm not sorry. The Ruby versus. I said
right.
Java. I said Ruby and .NET.
Actually, Ethan was telling me all that on the way over here, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from, but that definitely didn't come up. There was no religious war part about it.
Maybe somebody asked a question and they was anticipating that there was going to be bloodshed, and it never happened. So who knows? So so you don't really recommend Rails. You mentioned this thing called Rack, and when I was walking around videotaping everybody, it's not even videotaping anymore. It's recording. I'm sorry, I'm being technical. You were mentioning something about content length and Rack, but I only saw a minute of it. So what do you recommend to somebody who's a Ruby developer?
I recommend learning the basics, and that's understanding how our applications respond to the HTTP. So I am kind of going an odd route. I'm actually recommending people start with pure CGI, like bare bones applications, and then learning how to build up abstractions from that point. Learning the basics of how to abstract things to a Ruby class, and then using those Ruby classes to turn them into Rack applications. Rack applications can then be turned into Sinatra applications, where you get a little more fanciness around the DSL for describing routes and things of that nature, a little better helpers. And then with Rails 3, you can bring that all in, and you can mount those apps all together in one space as a Rails 3 app with separate, smaller Rack or Sinatra apps.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.